tonight's main event.
Where's the Friday? G'day. Welcome to my show, Widowed Trio and Freedom. I'm here with a special guest, Chase Morgan. You can see us live at YouTube at Widowed Trio and Freedom. If it's not out there at the moment, I'll get it back up this afternoon, but it's Widowed. I'm a widowed father. Trio, I have 2 little boys, and Freedom. I'm doing this to release things out of my mind, so hopefully it can release things out of yours. So that's the freedom that we're going for. Chase, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
This has been a long time coming. We've been working on this for a hot minute. It's good. I've had you in a slight interview, and I wanted to pull you back in because I think you got a great story, and you help a lot of people here too.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think that's a good thing. You work up in the DRC, right?
Yep, so I'm the assistant director of the Disability Resource Center.
Nice. You help people in so many ways. I don't think people understand how much wingspan you guys actually have, you know?
Yeah, and I definitely didn't understand it before I really got into it, but we have students that we've helped in immense ways. Yeah,
no, I mean, I'm one of them, you know,
yeah.
And I think it's a great thing. I talk about the DRC quite a lot in this place. I'm always telling people, go there. Just go there. Even if you think you might have something, you probably do. And if it's really hard to concentrate on exams and stuff, that's where I would suggest to go there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's tricky enough just being here, and you're spending a lot of money to be here, so you might as well get the best out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So where'd you grow up, man?
So I kind of grew up all over the place. Before I was 16, we lived in Houston, San Diego, Vegas, Phoenix, Salt Lake. When I was 16, we moved to Kanab, Utah.
Wow.
And so that's where I say I'm from now. That's where my formative years were. My family's still there, so Kanab, Utah.
Yeah. It's a great place too. It's where they used to shoot all the old westerns and things. They've got a big hub there for westerns. Mm-hmm. Kanab, Utah is at the bottom of Utah. If you ever looking at a map, it's right down there in the bottom as you go along. But it's almost like the foot of one way you've got Zion National Park, and the other way you've got the Grand Canyon National. Mm-hmm. You know, you got everything.
Yeah, it's 3 miles from the Arizona border. 5,000 people, but it's a great place to be.
How old were you when you moved there?
I was 16, so I moved there in high school. Didn't think anything of it. Figured I'd be moving around more and stayed there.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Honestly, though, if you're moving around like the way you were as a kid, that's pretty remarkable, actually. I think it helps people get better at communication and things like that.
Yeah, I definitely had to learn a lot, how to adapt, different ways to just communicate with individuals that I run into, and just... it taught me a lot, helped me grow up, maybe too quickly, but helped me in certain ways as well.
Yeah. I moved around a little bit when I was a kid. My parents did a split up thing and got back together, and it was not great. But having that knowledge of being forced to go into different schools, forced to learn how to deal with people, you know what I mean? Like, I find now when I'm in a situation with anyone, I could talk with a mouthful of marbles underwater.
Yeah, no, I feel the exact same way. There's really not a social situation now that can puzzle me just because I've dealt with it. Whether I'm comfortable or not, I at least know how to adapt to it.
I love what you said, that comfortable or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been in many situations where I haven't been comfortable, and I probably seemed extremely comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people think, oh, you just talk to anyone, you can just go for it. And it's actually not that. I've trained myself to be this way.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm actually more of a private person. I don't really like to go... I don't like to be in everyone's face, you know what I mean? But I think I just got a force inside of me that's pushing me to do this because I think I'm going to help a lot of people. I'm hoping anyway, you know?
Well, and I can absolutely understand that. I'm a private practice therapist as well, after work hours, and I'm like the most introverted human of all time, and yet if you see me at SUU or in a private practice setting, you wouldn't know that. So it's just adapting, but also I like putting my energy into helping people.
Yeah.
That's more important.
To get my theory on how to become this way at communicating, it's like with my boys, it's like every time, if we're out in public and we see a police officer, I'll make sure they go up and say hello.
Mm-hmm.
I say, go say g'day, you know, and they'll walk up, g'day. and cops love that. You know, what I mean, it's a good thing, but it's them developing their functions to be able to force themselves to talk in situations that they probably wouldn't do.
Yeah.
So even when we go to the doctors, I make sure that they talk to the doctor. I don't talk to the doctor.
Yeah.
You know, and
I think that's great.
yeah. So your parents doing that? Were they military? Is that?
No. So my mom was she was a runner, always into something, always addicted to something, and so it was just whatever the easiest way to run away was. So we were moving around every 16 months.
Wow.
Until I was 16. And then at that point, I was old enough to just decide what I was going to do. My grandma lived in Kanab, so I just said, I'm done with this, and just went to Kanab.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Can I ask what your mum doing now? Was she diagnosed with something or?
So it's hard as a
yeah.
therapist. I could tell you all of her diagnosis,
Right.
but no, she's never taken that step. But I will say she's actually 2 years clean right now, which is the longest. I'm in my 30s. It's the longest I've ever seen her sober. I've got a little brother that's 19, just had twins, which is crazy, but he helped her a lot get clean.
Wow.
He ended up going and staying with her, and it actually was a catalyst for change for her.
He must have got medieval with her. That's not easy. That is so hard.
Yeah. And I think I was so fed up from dealing with it for 30 years that I was just like, forget
Done.
this. Yep, you can go figure it out. And for whatever reason, I'm grateful, but they figured it out together.
Yeah. I mean, you get at that stage, they got to want to change. That's not, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And she's had a lot of loss. She's lost 2 husbands
Wow.
due to their habits, and here she is now, actually doing pretty well. So we'll take it.
Yeah. No, I think that's amazing. To come out of that darkness is crazy.
Yeah.
So you didn't have a wholesome 2 adults raising you. Sounds like your mum going through hell.
Oh yeah, it was. That's exactly what it was. Which, if she's going through hell, that means me as well.
Yeah.
Never met my dad, so there was always just whoever was around based on what she was up to. So I would say pretty much raised myself till I was 16-ish, and then moved in with my grandma.
Wow. That's awesome for grandma to step up. That's not easy. Usually grandmas step up sooner in those situations, hey? There's a lot of people even around here, where kids are getting raised by grandmas and grandpas because mum and dad are too checked out.
And I think my grandma, I was resistant. I had heard from my mom, whatever her narrative of everyone was. And so I think I was resistant to anyone else. And then by the time I was ready for help, my grandma was like, of course, get over here. So it was she had probably been waiting for me, and was just grateful when I called.
Yeah. Oh man, that's tricky. I was just thinking, it just takes me back to a time when one of my best friends, Sean, shout out to that guy, he's a good man. He had a bunch of stepbrothers that were all from a place called Mount Druitt, which doesn't breed the greatest of people, right? And these guys were stuck on heroin. And the worst thing about them was when they weren't on heroin, they were the nicest guys you'd ever meet. But the problem was, if they met you when they're not on heroin and they came to your place, they would come back there when they were on heroin and rip off all your stuff.
Yep.
And I couldn't fathom, it just really drove me bonkers. And you growing up and watching that firsthand, you put I put a barrier up, I will never, ever, ever go anywhere near A, heroin, B, talk to anyone that's on heroin, or, you know what I mean? That, it just changes people 180 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, and that's how, I growing up just around exactly what you're describing, just any number of those people, I just made it a point, never will I mess with anything. I just can't even afford it, because who knows what's going to come of it.
Yeah. Oh, lots of things have happened in my life since then, so now I know what other things do. You know what I mean? So for me, it's I understand the formulation of THC and what it can do for the body. I watched THC work like heroin with my wife when she was passing away. There's certain ways you administer it, and it's all, you know what I mean? So things like that have opened my mind especially ketamine. Have you ever? Yeah.
I've gotten to know, well, I've done a lot of research on ketamine for my private practice because I actually have a few clients that are also side by side going through ketamine treatments.
Yeah.
I never experienced it myself, but I know a lot from the other perspective of it.
Oh, great. Well, I'm on the other side. I just barely. I suppose I've done a few treatments now. I think I started in November, and I've been holding on to my wife's stuff since 2019. It's been in storage, and I've been paying for storage since then. I had a little bit of help along the way from a really cool guy, but I mean, like I've not been able to go into that storage facility to be able to open a door without tears rolling down my eyes.
Oh yeah.
Once I started doing ketamine, oh man, it's so many messages, and it's so odd and so weird. Like doing it orally versus the injections. I think the injections are more powerful, and I remember just hearing my wife's voice saying, "It's time to bring my stuff home." And man, it just filled me full of joy, just thinking about that woman.
Yeah.
And I've never been in a position to be able to do that. And the ketamine, I know 100%. Like you just get messages, and it's probably the things that your brain's already telling you. You know what I mean? To be honest with you, I think it's the things you already know, but you just got to hear it from a different angle or perspective. And you seem to get that when you take that, and I got other things out of it too, but I've never been able to get that stuff moved. And over the Christmas break and up until the start of school, I moved all the stuff, which was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's amazing. Just the way that they've figured out how to use it appropriately, the right number of sessions, the right ways to administer it, and then how much it can release you from the darkest depressions is just amazing.
Yep. I will say the actual experience of it is quite scary. It freaks me out quite a bit, but I've learnt to breathe, and it's the one thing I just tell myself, just to breathe and calm and relax. And I go in there fasted, so I don't eat on that day.
Yeah.
And I think that helps as far as, you still get nauseous and stuff like that, but it's majority of the how hard it is to go through is, I think it's the death of the ego they talk about, where it's no joke too. It's like you're like, as you feel the stuff taking hold, your mind is literally, you idiot, what have you done? And I think that's the ego, quietening. He gets quietened out real quick. And then you see lots of colors, and there's meaning behind colors and things. And it's like, it's very psychedelic as far as anyone knows about psychedelic speak, I think it made the biggest difference in my world, though. I will say I definitely will not be addicted to this drug.
Yeah.
I cannot stand the process. But I tell you one thing, though, is after the actual process has stopped, you still have a period of time where you're very raw and very positive. Where you're almost like a little love bug, you know what I mean? And for me and my boys, that just fills us, you know what I mean? It's such a good scenario. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think it's got its place, but I think it needs to be respected too. Yeah,
I agree. And my clients that do it, they have kind of the same experience. They actually hate the experience, but they like, the progress that comes with it. And, I always tell them, like, if you're going to do it, then you need to do therapy in conjunction with, because there's a lot, as you know, when you're so raw and when you're separated, that comes out and what needs to be processed, or else that progress is going to stall. So no, I'm a big supporter of it, based on research and what I know.
You're right. No worries. I'm hearing the vibration.
Sorry.
It's on the table. No, you're good. No, I think it's a great thing. So tell me, so you're 16 years old, you're seeing the writing on the walls, and you're just fed up with it. Like, good on you for being 16 years old and being able to stand up, because I tell you, most people can't.
Yeah, well, so it actually started a little bit before that. So I've always said that from about 8 to 16, there were just time periods where I wasn't living with any family. I'd be couch hopping at friends' house. I could name 10 different grown-ups in my life at that point that kind of took me in based on where we were. So I was kind of on my own at like 8 to 16. I always had like that home base where my mom lived. Not that it was a place I wanted to be. And then I just had good friends along the way. The problem was they were temporary. We would move, right? And so there was no stability, no safety, really. And then finally at 16, I had been doing this for, 8 years or so. And I was just finally just done. And I just said, like, I'm not doing this with you guys, to my mom and whoever she was with, and just moved to Kanab. And that was good for me, other than it's the first time I've ever really had structure and rules. So that was tough for me too, in a different way.
Yeah. What was that conversation like with you said your nana or your grandma? What do you call her?
Yeah, so my grandma, of course, when I called and told her, she said, yeah, get down here. Obviously, we'll have you anytime. But she's an old school kind of Southern Utah woman, so she's got her beliefs and her the way she does things. And I had been living this like too free, too autonomous life, to a fault. And so, all of a sudden I've got a curfew and I've got things I can and can't do. And, I'm cleaning up after myself for the first time, because growing up the way I did, that wasn't really a thing I even thought of. So it was tough, but she was great. She was patient. But she held me accountable more than anyone ever had. Even today, if I call her, she'll have some opinion that it's kind of true. So, I'll listen to her.
She can speak to you. I see she's got no qualms about going through that barrier.
Oh, yeah. She'll get right in there. And she kind of raised my brother for a few years as well, between, like, I was raising him, then she was raising him. And it was the same thing. She just has no time for our stupidity at that age. And it's good for us. It holds us accountable. Yeah.
No, I think it's great. I think unless you have someone there to do that, you ain't going to be sharper or better. You need that. You need that rub. You need that etching of life. The anvil of life, as I call it. My goodness, because if they don't do it, life has a way, man. It'll sharpen you up so quick. So you can just be bumbling through life. It'll teach you something.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of how I learned anything up to that point, was just based on stuff I had been through. And without her, I don't know. I think I'd probably be okay, but I don't think it'd be anywhere near where I'm at now.
It sounds very similar to the way I was brought up. I was just running rampant, doing whatever I wanted. My parents were gamblers, massive gamblers, alcoholics, all that jazz. And I just had free reign of do whatever you want. And then, so from a young age, I was probably tarred with he's too hard to touch. This kid's just wild.
Yeah.
Which I was. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But at the same token, it's such an honorable thing to raise little kids. Kids are the hardest to raise. But it's such you need to step up, and you need to be a part of it. And that's probably the rub right there, where there's so many people that don't show up.
Yeah, well, and I told you before the show, you've got your kids, as you've talked about, and that's 2 more kids than I ever want to have. So, I think based on life experience, I'm not sure I ever want to. So I'm actually people like you that put all they have into it, and I just appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate that too, man. It's I think if I don't, I'm doing a disservice. And these kids are so smart.
Yeah.
They are very smart. They are very on it, and I appreciate what they do, It's a good thing. But they work hard for it, and I make sure they do.
Yeah.
And it's just like you need that voice of reason, and you need that rub. If you don't have that, you don't grow, you don't progress. So
absolutely.
What do you think? Going through all that stuff with your mum, like I was kind of the same boat as you. I didn't want to have kids either. And I for the strict reason of I wasn't raised right. I don't want to be doing this to another kid. So I've had to change everything, man. Like I've really had to change it. But I think that's part of the reason why I didn't want to be a dad is because it's so hard and so tricky. And you're playing with someone's life.
Yeah.
If they mess up in life, buddy, you're the one that's collecting that check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, my brother's 14 years younger than me.
Wow.
And so because of the way we were living, I actually ended up raising him for the most part. And then we switched off. My grandma raised him when I moved here and all that. But, you do your best. But part of me is like, I think I'm selfish, not necessarily always to a fault, but selfish in that I know what I like, I know what I do, I know, what I'm good at. And I also know what it takes as far as like the attention I have to put towards myself and the energy I have to be able to do what I do. And I just, at this point in my life, I'm not sure if I ever want to change that, and I know, like you're saying, having kids and, being responsible for another life that you bring into the world is everything ends up going towards that, which is fair and should be definitely if you're raised the way you and I were, where that wasn't the case. But yeah, I think that's my holdup with kids. Do I really want to change my lifestyle? When I've actually gotten it to a place where I feel good about it.
Yeah, and you will change. Everything changes.
Yeah,
man. It's so everything is different, and it's not my turn; it's their turn.
Yeah,
I'm even being slightly selfish about going back to school to benefit us for later on, because I've had to put so much into this. But like what most people don't understand is. When I leave here in the afternoons, I pick up my kids, and then it's their time until 8:30 at night. And I've got to get them through all their sports. I got to get them fed with a home cooked meal, showered, bathed, read, pianoed, and put to bed by 8:30. And sometimes it's at 9 o'clock.
Oh yeah,
it's not easy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the day when someone steps up and becomes a partner of mine and really steps up, because that's the things, it's big boots to fill, kind of hard to put that on people, but you know what, I'm being a terrific dad, so if someone's going to step into my world, they're going to have to step it up too.
Yeah, and someone will, that's more and more common now to want to step in and be into families that are already established.
A positive influence.
A positive influence, and be that, I guess, step parent, but really just that parent, that second parent that steps in. I'm seeing that a lot more, so
yeah,
they will.
Yeah, I think it will. Out of all of that, what do you think your strength is? And then when did you realize that you had this strength? Because I kind of know where you're going to go with this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same in many ways. But I just wanted to get your perspective on that, because I think it's a good one.
Yeah. I'd say a strength I've definitely always had, whether I used it for the good or for the bad growing up. I've always been able to reach people. Always. I've always been able to communicate with people, no matter how different or similar we are. And the first time I realized that, so growing up, I thought I wanted to be a pharmacist for some reason. I don't know, right? And that was like the goal. And when I was 17, a wilderness therapy program opened up in my town, in Kanab. And I played sports with the owner's kids and thought it was cool, but I didn't know anything about it. And one night at 11 p.m., I called the owners and was like, I have to work there. And they're like, well, it's 11, so call us tomorrow, right? Like, just pretty straightforward. So anyway, I started there at 17, and I really realized, like, I can get down on a human level with anyone. And it was about, 17 when I realized I can do that. And I've done it ever since. I was doing it before, but maybe not realizing what I was doing. But I think that's probably my greatest strength.
Yeah, you can talk with the best of them. It's a kind of same thing with me too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can put me in a situation, and I'll be able to talk my way out of it or get my way out of it. And I bring it down to there's a couple of things I'm going to mention here. One of them, I used to jump a train a lot and go to my uncle's house and things like that. And I'm talking at a very young age.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you had to pay for a train ticket. You know what I mean? Like, but I would do that, and later on in life we use the train quite a bit. So we're always in this funnel of you might be robbed, or you might be beaten. And one of the first two things I realized is, how do I diffuse this with comedy? And I don't want to be beat anymore, so I just worked out how to diffuse it as quick as possible. And if I was in a group of people, usually we'd sit in the train, we'd take up the whole train. There's maybe 5 of us, we're all sitting in our own seat, whatever, blah blah blah, taking up a whole bunch of space. And then they would roll through, and I would crack a whole bunch of jokes, and maybe they might take $20 off me, but they rob all of my friends bad because they're just not cooperating, and I'm just making light of the whole scenario. I think that helped me, man. Yeah. Diffusing situations like that, like aggressive adults in my life I've had, diffusing that. I think that makes a big thing. The other thing I wanted to sort of touch on is at a young age, I realized that I was smarter than my father, well, my stepfather at the time. And I think I was like around 11 or 12 or something like that. And I'm like, oh, that's a mic drop in my world. And that's when things started to change for me, when I realized I needed to, pull back, and I'm not going to learn what I think I'm going to learn off this guy. I need to start looking somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, I went through something pretty similar. I had a lot of different step guys coming into my family, but one stepdad, my brother's dad, he was kind of there for like the prominent years, and I had the same realization of like, this guy, he's just a guy, right? Like he's not going to be the one to bring me in and teach me and whatever the case. So I kind of did the same thing where it was like, who can teach me these things, right? And just being able to adapt to it and find who was going to benefit me the most, and a little selfishly, to be totally honest, which I think is why I like to give back so much now, because so many people that didn't have to took me in, taught me things, and even when I was awful and behavioral and eventually it ended, not as clean as it should, they still put that energy in. Yeah. So I think that's why I like to put so much energy in now.
No, it's great. It really is. You're a very patient person, and I think that plays hugely into what you do. It's to be able to leverage that across to people, to be able to diffuse a situation fast. Like you've got to be literally, you got to let people know that you're not against them. Yeah. And you're here to help. And that's, especially when people are going through it, that's not an easy thing to portray. Yeah. So
well, and that comes a little bit, from my life, but I also did wilderness therapy for 6 years and residential treatment for 7 years.
Ah, yeah.
So from 17 to 31, that's all I knew. Thought it was going to be my career. Well, it was for a while. I was doing super well, making good money, and I actually just got exhausted, right? Came here to SU, which is great. Took a pretty good pay cut, but took a bigger stress cut. And my life has been so much easier, and I feel like I can give the students I work with everything, and then I can go home and refresh. Whereas before in the treatment world, you have no refresh time. It's 24/7. You never know what's going to happen. So that's been super interesting, super cool realization for me that I can still do what I like and take care of myself rather than just give everyone everything 24/7.
Yeah, the giving everyone everything 24/7. I just want to touch that on two things. It's like a career choice of for anyone, like anyone that's going to forensics and things like that. That's the same as being a therapist in a sense, because your input isn't equaling your output. So how do you get rid of the input? What I'm saying is you get told so many crazy stories that us as humans have put other humans through. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you're the one that's got to try to decipher, undo, back it out, and rebuild. Yep. And that is the hardest, craziest thing ever I've ever come across.
Oh, it is. And for people like you're talking about going into these different fields, I'll say the number one thing that got me through any of it, the number one thing that I've taught and practiced myself is self-care can be anything as long as you're intentional with it. So I tell people, make sure you're doing self-care, this and that. And I always get I don't have time for self-care. Well, you do have time for self-care, because self-care can be anything from the shower you have to take, if you just flip your mindset and make it intentional, to eating, which you're going to do anyway. And so that's something I truly believe in. I've done a lot of research on, and I think the way you get through it is by practicing self-care, making sure you come first when you can, and then adapting to the situations.
Yeah, I like that. It's the same. So we're taking self-care. We're actually taxing it to the hilt right now. Having these cell phones in our pockets, it's releasing the most dopamine we've ever released, and just scrolling and you might have a chuckle every 5 knocks. Yeah, that's self-care in the wrong way. Yes. Yeah. So no, I definitely understand that. I often thought that maybe my major should be around therapy versus as well as this communication stuff, just so I get that angle better. I don't know.
I think based on your life experiences, you get those same angles. Like I've learned a lot, obviously, through grad school and all that, but I didn't learn my style through that, right? I learned my style through being who I am. I learned some modalities and some ways that the brain works, of course, but nothing that was so earth-shattering that it made me specifically a better therapist. I think it helps, right? It obviously helps to know kind of how the brain's working and these things, but I think my life experiences are what make me a person people can relate to or that can understand that I understand. And that's half of therapy, is just building that rapport.
Yeah.
You know, you can be the smartest human of all time and have no clue how to build relationships. And people aren't going to trust you.
I'll tell you one thing I've experienced with therapists. I've got a good one right now. Shout out to Morgan. He's amazing. But before that, all the therapists around in this town when I first moved in, I think I've been to most of them, and most have said, you don't need therapy. You know enough as it is. And it's like, I'm pretty intelligent as far as when it comes to things like that, and I've gone through a lot of crap, so I understand it. But my goodness, really, it didn't make any sense to come across that. So when I finally got a hold of Magnum, this guy's amazing. Yeah, I mean, and he's not doing anything different. He's just adding to where it needs to add to. So it's just like what I say to anyone with anyone in their life. You know what I mean? If an energy of a person that comes near you, they're not adding to your life, get rid of them. Just let them go, and it's okay. They're not a part of your world.
Yep. No, I agree with that. People talk a lot, especially in 2025, about like good energy and good vibes and all that, and that's fine. It's a thing right now that we're talking about, but there's a reality to it as well. And you know, when you're with someone that brings that, you have a good feeling. You have that different feeling. And so rather than focus so much on these catchphrases, just focus on how you feel around these people.
Yeah.
And that's going to tell you the truth, whether you feel bad or good around them. So I agree with you.
And if you can't feel it while you're around them, because sometimes it's so tricky with what's going on, but when they leave you, you'll feel a
yes. Yep.
And when that leaves you, that's the indicator. If you need to lay down and have a rest, that's because you need to lay down and not talk to that person again.
Yeah. Nope. I agree completely.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It's great. It's to see, like, you've literally taken your experience and rolled it right in. You've just kept going with the hits, and now you've gone from someone that's giving the hits and taking the hits. Now you're helping people go through the hits, which is, it's got to be rewarding.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate it. It's super rewarding. I mean, that's, you know, I've never thought I want to be a full-time therapist because I think I'm still figuring out kind of my own balance, my own energy. And so it's super rewarding. I get to do this job that's awesome, the DRC. I get to work with students all day, which is, if I didn't work with students, I wouldn't be here, to be honest, right? I couldn't be tucked away in an administrative position. So I get to do that, and then I get to go to my practice and just work with people that want to come see me and want to come deal with things. And so it's super rewarding. And then I get to go home and take care of myself, and that's even more rewarding.
Yeah, I think that's great. You've helped me a bunch of times. I was coming into this semester with craziness in my world, and clearly I have this arm.
Yeah, right.
That's not in the great, like, I've got this rig on my arm right now. It locks it up so I can't open it up, I suppose. But
yeah.
I did the bicep tendon, and you've done the same thing, or you've done shoulders and stuff like that. So it was kind of, I was thankful, man, because I was so freaking out.
Yeah, well, and we talked about it, but, you know, I just barely got my brace off 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I had shoulder and bicep surgery, and so I actually, not like, I was living it. So when you came in to talk about it, I could fully get what you were about to deal with in terms of life and professional. But yeah, just being able to work with students, whether it's this, you know, your shoulders or your arm surgery, or it's any other thing that they deal with, is super, super challenging, but more rewarding than anything I've done. They want to come talk to us. They feel grateful for the work we've done, and that's what makes it all worth it.
Yeah, I think I see that as the same as a high school teacher versus a university teacher. I could never teach high school, man. I feel so sorry for those teachers.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they must have done something bad in their other lives to want to choose that life, but good luck, you know. Yeah. And you guys are the saints, the good ones that are out there. The bad ones, step up your game.
Yep. No, I agree.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. Is there anything else that we've It's kind of coming to the end of the hour. Is there anything you want to touch on a little bit?
I don't know. I mean, I just appreciated the way this conversation has gone and how we're focusing on things that matter to everyone. So just this energy and ability to take care of yourself. But also, I want to just reiterate something you said of, I work at the DRC, so I got to do a little bit of a plug. But anything that you might be struggling with out there, I would say come to the DRC. There's most likely something we can do if you're struggling with something. It's not just physical and visible disabilities anymore. The number one disabilities we served last year were anxiety, ADHD, and depression. And either you or someone you know has that, and they're not working with the DRC. So come up here, use your resources, and let us help you through what might be the hardest part of your life currently, because it makes a big difference.
I would say that to the students for sure, 100%. If you have never ever gone into the DRC, even just to know where it is, that's a sad scenario. You should learn where it is. Even if it's not for you, so it's somewhere that you can refer people to go if you know they're struggling. You know, it's the biggest thing about being here, man, is we're all going through something, and to have the DRC is such an amazing scenario. And I've seen the changes over the years, you know, of where college was versus now. It's very accommodating. It never was before, you know, and we're starting to untap things. Like if I go to do a test anywhere, if it's in a big room, I'm so distracted, I can't focus. You know what I mean? Like if there's an ant, I'm going to watch that ant walk all the way across the room.
Yeah, yep.
You know, and that's what I'm very thankful for you guys. It's very, very easy. It's not hard to set an appointment. You can go online. It's so quick. It's really not that bad. And 9 times out of 10, if you don't even know, just go and find out, because you guys will be able to point you in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, and the team up there is awesome. I've only been here a year, and the rest of them have been here forever. They know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. And so we have a great team. And if you feel like you need to or don't need to, come up and see us and let's talk about it.
Yeah. Even if it's just a thing to drop through and say good day. Yeah, because you never know.
Yep.
I have one last question
Yeah.
for you. I ask everyone this. In life, it could do with anything, right? But what makes the difference?
I've thought about this, not because of this coming up, but to me, both in experience and on the other side of things, I believe what makes a difference is strong, positive relationships. So, growing up, I definitely didn't have anyone teaching me a bunch of stuff, as we've talked about. But what I always had, whether they were temporary, permanent, whatever, were strong, secure relationships. So I think if you've got that, whether you're 16 or 46, it makes the biggest difference. Someone that you can communicate with, hopefully will hold you accountable, and hopefully will push you in the right direction, whether it seems rough or not. That makes a difference to me.
A no-nonsense friend.
Yes.
That's the measure of a true friend.
Yes.
If they're too scared to tell you something, then they're probably not a friend. You know what I mean? Like, to be honest with you, if you got bad breath and you got a friend that tells you got bad breath, that's a good friend.
Yeah. Cares.
Yeah. I've had many people be so mad at me because I tell them I got bad breath.
Yeah.
I've just got a really good nose. Sorry, guys. Hey,
Well,
Chase, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
It's a good thing what you guys are doing up there. The Disability Resource Center, people, go see the DRC. It's very, very easy to find. They're just above Chick-fil-A on the opposite side. First stairwell there. It's not hard to come across.
Yeah.
Ask anyone. We will all point you in the right direction.
Yep.
Thanks for coming, Chase.
Yeah, thank you.
You have a great day. Coming up now, we're going to go into stargazing.